Dickinson?
Just ill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not.
I don't know. Yeah, I honestly haven't talked to the training staff. I just was told he left the ice. He had a little stomach issue and he wasn't coming back.
Okay.
Donato had said his wife's due date was soon. Is that why he was coming?
Yeah. No news to report, though.
How much, I guess, the younger guys feeling up being physical in the league, and I know Vlasic has been talking about that specifically, but I guess with Levchinov, Rinzel, how much do you balance them trying to, get out of their comfort zone a little bit, and what's needed at this level?
Yeah, I think I would say if you look at our decor as a whole, we have size. I think we have big bodies. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily like natural, like hard, guys necessarily. And so we just want to draw out of them the max of their physicality and the max of their hardness, because that's an important aspect of being a good D in this league. And I think we're getting. I think certainly Vlas has shown that. I think Artie's showing that. Louis, you go kind of through the list, especially those guys. Now, I think Rinzel's different. Like, Rinzel doesn't have the body yet to go physically head to head with a ton of guys in the league, so he's going to have to do it with his brain, and how you kind of separate hands and things like that. So there's different techniques that, that I think he has to learn. I think he's still going to put muscle onto his frame, and he'll continue to get bigger and stronger, but he's not quite there yet. So, but for the guys that are the bigger bodies, we definitely want to draw out that highest level, not just of compete, because I don't want it to sound like they're not highly competitive. I think they are, but the physicality side of it.
Power play, practicing the no drop entry and then the two drop entry. Is it just to have different looks to use in different situations?
Yeah, I think that's important. We kind of went through the first part of the year with basically one look, and I would say, for a long time it did pretty good. But like, what happens even in games, if you're struggling with that, then there's frustration that sets in. I think when that frustration sets in, it's important to have a different look, both for the ability to get in and to kind of fight through the frustration.
You guys,
when you do see players seemingly frustrated with how that's going, do you want them more to kind of just bear down and stick with the system, or would you rather them maybe even go with simplifying it and just say, use your speed and try and just whip the puck by dumping it in?
Yeah, I think there's definitely times we've talked about, within our kind of, in the PP, within the drop, Florida probably does this the best, there still should be a rim option, so when you are getting frustrated, you can still rim it in, or if you're not getting the line, or if teams want to stand up really hard. I mean, if you think about it, if teams are going to stand hard at the blue line, it gets really difficult to get in with possession, but because they're standing so hard, you should be able to get it on a rim or even on an end wall play or a self chip, and so you got to balance those two things.
I think you're the only team with no 6-on-5 goals. Is that something you might be able to practice during this stretch of all this time?
Yeah, we'll practice it. There's a lot that goes into that, but we're definitely gonna try to touch all our bases here before we play Nashville. So we'll practice it for sure.
We talked a lot this year about guys having the mentality of not trying to win every shift. It's okay to live to fight another day. We saw that in the U.S.-Sweden game. Do you ever use like that kind of stuff as examples, knowing that all the guys are watching that?
For sure. I think coming out of the especially that game, because it's too as they get into the next game and hopefully one more, those games get so, when it's best on best, it reminds you of, it's like another level maybe, but of playoff hockey, and in playoff hockey you can't afford to have forced mistakes or unforced errors, and it's the same when you're playing best on best over there. So you're seeing elite guys, when they have a chance, they're trying to make a play, but when they aren't, they're living another day, and so we'll certainly use that.
What did you think of Dylan Larkin finally getting a chance to excel on a huge stage with that goal yesterday? Yeah,
I was pumped for him when I saw it. Dylan's somebody I talk to still a lot, and a good friend of mine and a friend of his family's, and really pumped that he's had that opportunity. And when he scored, I was really excited for him. Yeah, really excited for him.
Spencer Knight said that he was battling through illness his last few games before the break. Did he tell you that? Like, he was saying that he wanted to test himself to see how he could do in that situation.
Yeah, I knew he wasn't feeling his best, but that's not totally abnormal. Ultimately, when it comes to this illness, for the most part, I mean, there might be some times we rule the player out, but generally the player, dictates whether he can go or can't go. And in his case, he felt like he could still go and give us 100%, even though you might not feel 100%. That's always kind of my rule: is if you can give us 100%, then you can play. If you're going to give us 80%, then it's a coach's decision whether that 80% is better than you know what I mean. And that's just the way it goes. So generally, when that's the case, we'd hold the player out.
Do you know when you anticipate Sorensen back?
I do not. I've left him alone. I've left him alone for today. So I'm not sure when he'll be back, to be honest with you.
You've got a number of young guys in your team who've never navigated a massive break and time off like this. What do you think is important as they go through this stretch of just practice before diving back into the season?
It's a good question. I mean, this is a massive break. Honestly, I haven't navigated this massive. I mean, you probably haven't had this since Sochi. So, and I was in the American League at the time. It's an interesting kind of dilemma. I think part of it's on us to work our way back into them. We've tried to, we eased. I'd say yesterday's practice was a little bit lighter. Today's was a little bit harder. Tomorrow's will be a little harder, and we'll take a day off. So there's a side of that from the coaching staff that we have to do a good job. We got to monitor it with our, our trainers and our strength coach. And the other side from their end is just, I think most guys, it's probably, some of that's already been done. Like, you got to keep yourself in good shape. And you might not be on the ice every day, but you got to keep yourself in good shape. It looks like our guys have done that. And then it's just a matter of kind of getting your focus back. Tomorrow's practice will be a challenge. It's your third one. The first practice back's always easy. Second one, the third one in a row gets a little bit harder. So we'll have to remind them that they have to be dialed in tomorrow.
When you're watching young players, aside from on-ice execution, what are some of the things you could look for to see if a guy is struggling or if a guy is getting it, like body language or off-ice? Is there anything you kind of keep an eye on in that regard?
Body language for sure. You can feel when you can really sense when guys' confidence is starting to dip a little bit, and I don't think that's restrictive to young players. I've coached some of the best players in the world, and their confidence dips. It's just reality. It's reality of any athlete, whether they want to admit it or not. And you can sense it with body language for sure, and we have to be cognizant of that. We'll sit around our coach's room and I probably got this from Coop. He does a good job of this. It's just, okay, who needs to get bumped today? Who needs to have just communicate with and see where they're at least you get a chance to have an open communication with them. So those are important things. And there's probably times where when we know their confidence is really low, we lay off them a little bit as coaches. When you're on somebody all the time, you take away their confidence. There's a fine balance between accountability and confidence, and I think that we got to ride that balance as a coaching staff.